turn you
I
down.
feel scared down there.
That's all I need.
Remember?
Cat goes home, shake twice. Bobcats are gonna treat us nice. Going up down in a Cadillac. We got you in front, we got you in back. Riding in style and feeling alright. We're double in loving tonight. We got a bee babaloo on the radio. Flying around the cat that I love so. Don't forget your neighbors gonna treat me right. We're double in loving tonight. Yeah, we're going uptown to the soccer ball. Popping in and hopping, gonna rattle and roll. Gonna be something that decided on the devil tonight. We're double in loving tonight. Yeah, we're going uptown in a Cadillac. We got you in front, we got you in back. Riding in style, everything's alright. We're double in loving tonight. Let's go! Hey, we're going uptown on Saturday night. Popping in the bathroom with my Dixie light. Yeah, rocking in a little till all daylight. We're double in loving tonight. We got a country with some music on the radio. My arms around the gal that I love so. You know my good baby's gonna treat me right. We're double in loving tonight. Last time.
Tearing my hair out every day. Caught me in the dark about it all the way. Tearing my hair out one by one. If I can't have his love and I ain't having none. Took me to the drive-in and he said I was the cutest in town. That hold me tight all that night. I ain't seen him around. Now it looks like the end of the road. Everything to do but nowhere to go. Tearing my hair out all alone. I wonder if that'll send my daddy back home. Tearing my hair out every day. Got me in the dark about it all the way. Tearing my hair out one by one. If I can't have his love and I ain't having none. Took me to the drive-in and he said I was the cutest in town. After holding me tight all that night, I ain't seen him around. Now it looks like the end of the road. Everything to do but nowhere to go. Tearing my hair out all alone. I wonder if that'll send my daddy back home.
All right, let's pop. Well, I like to dress up a sharp and right. I get my girl on a Saturday night. I go out and tear up the town. I get crazy and dance around. So let's pop. Yeah, let's pop. I said, baby, let's pop tonight. Yeah, be my partner. Please don't fight. Let's pop. Let's pop.
right, guys. Hey, thanks a lot for watching West Coast Ramble. We got a big show, and I'm kind of excited about it because we got a whole Brady Bunch room full of people here in this whole thing. But let's see. We got we're going to talk about rockabilly scene, Orange County, 1981-82, and a lot of people were there, and this is where a lot of people got their start in the music. So I've got a couple friends here. Of course, we got to say hello to Paul. He's here too, even though Paul was born in '89. Is that true, Paul?
That's right. So I'll be the expert on this whole show. Being born in 1989, I'm going to have the most information for you guys. The deepest dishes and all the scandalous stories. So rock 80s babies.
Yeah, and of course, the anchor of West Coast Ramble, Big Sandy. What's going on, Big Sandy?
Hey, excited about this one. Doing the little warm-up, little checking the system. It's good to see a lot of friends from the past. So this is going to be a good one. Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, friends, we're going to jump right into it. Here's what happened in Orange County, 1981. You know, everyone had their rockabilly scene, but I got to say, like, in our spot, you know, I'm like 14, 15 years old, and the rockabilly scene here was huge. You know, and it all revolved around a club for us, around a club called Radio City. And it was a dive. It was just a dirty, smelled like beer and, you know, whatever. And so a lot of us met there, and a lot of us couldn't even drive. We had to, like, get rides to this club. And a lot of bands played there. We were just getting our feet wet playing. So some of the bands were okay. Some of them were, you know, not so good. We were getting there. But anyways, what really solidified us really was this record called L.A. Rockabilly. And it had a whole bunch of bands on there they were our group. Because, you know, before that, we had all listened to the Stray Cats. And, you know, we all know that whole story. But L.A., we were kind of proud because we had this. And it had we had James Infeld on there, the Rockin' Rebels, the Paladins, Dave Alvin, the Red Devils. Like, we were really proud of this, that it was our people, you know. And some of those bands went down there and played. Let's say, hey, Robert, what do you want to add to this? Like, what it was like there in 1981?
Well, it was something else. Like, personally, I had already been into the music in general, just through my family, my parents' records. But to stumble on this scene was like, it made it like real. No, this is now. This isn't just like revival stuff, even though it was. But it was like vital. It was now. The other kids are into it. I'm not so weird after all. So, it was an important part of my life.
Yeah. So, you know, with that, there was a news story that they did about the club there in Radio City back in 1981. And my friend Big Sandy, he happened to find the clip. And we're going to play it for you right now. So you guys who are not familiar with this area, yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Although I reworked it a little bit because it was a little, like a lot of these clips, they end up talking to the wrong people and stuff. I left a couple of those in there, but I just wanted it to be just a little taste of what we experienced back then. So I recut it a little bit. Let it roll.
One place where you can travel back in time is a place in Anaheim called Radio City.
And like we like the bands that came from the 50s and stuff, and that's what makes it more funner for us. I guess we realized that we missed it from because we weren't around then, and now we're catching up.
I like to bop until I drop.
All right, let's pop!
The name Rockabilly has been around as long as the music itself, but don't confuse it with punk rock.
A lot of people think I'm a punk, which is, of course, exactly contrary to what I'm involved in.
Yeah, my baby got a little bush, we talk on a mile.
I don't have any problems with the police, except for I don't get problems with the hippies, like long hair and stuff.
Shot. That really takes you back, doesn't it?
All right. Hey, thank you, Big Sandy, for that. You know
What happened? It looked like it was kind of freezing up there. Was it playing all right for you there?
For me. Yeah. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay, guys, you know what? We got a whole list of characters here, so I want to introduce you to them, and we'll kind of go down the line. So we're bringing up the whole Brady Bunch of all our people. Here we are. Hey, I don't know how to show this. Yeah. There we go. We got Eddie Hill on the top. Going across, you got Jim Radzik, leader of the Teds. That's a rival Rockabilly gang. You know, Big Sandy over there. Middle left, that's Dan Riley, leader of the Wildcat group. And that was
Our
a club.
fearless leader.
That was not a band, and he's drinking orange juice only. And in the middle playing Alice is Scott Willie Bebop. You know Paul, who was born in 1989. Still love him. That's me. And then right next to me, wait, right there. Oh,
Kitty.
You're right the
okay,
first
right
time.
there.
Oh, wait.
It's Kitty.
There you are.
Yeah, there's Kitty. Yeah, she was great. And she's still great. And then, of course, you know Axel from way over on the other side. And he was representing Riverside, and he took it a next step further, and he was the guy that like started actually building hot rods and cars and stuff and really took it to the next level. But you know what, friends, here's what we're going to start with Eddie Hill. We're going to go down the line, and everyone's going to tell their stories. And, hey, Eddie Hill from the Rockin' Rebels, why are you here? Tell us.
Well, first, because you asked me to be here, Tom. So, but it's an honor, you know, and always a pleasure to be with all you guys. So it's a blast. Always fun to talk about the past, and especially that period from 81 to 82. Things were just really jumping. You know, we were playing 9-10 times a month between LA, Orange County, and San Diego. So we were playing a lot, but it never got old. It always stayed exciting. And it was just a lot of fun. So it's good to be here.
Yeah.
So you had asked me, Tom, you said, to talk about, kind of center around Radio City. And I don't know if you could, that first shot that you showed there was a typical Radio City gig right there.
Yeah.
And that's
Joey?
That's Joe. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, I said that looks like Joey Altruda. Yeah.
Yeah. So Joey Altruda had a little stint in the Rockin' Rebels upright bass, and that's me rolling around on the floor on that funky stage. But you can see the sweat on Joey, and just that picture really shows, the crowd. We're going to get to showing the bop circles and all that, but we'd feed off the crowd would feed off of us, and it was just kind of mayhem, And that there that you're showing right now is a shot of the Rockin' Rebels up at Club Lingerie in Hollywood, with Andy McClure on bass, myself, Jerry Prefontaine on the upright drums, and Mark Liddell over there on the far right. So it was a lot of fun. I mean, the energy was just big time, and just always looking forward to the show. Playing 10 times a month in a small area. It was always about the show. We're always getting ready for the show, going to the show, talking about the show after, promoting the show, and it was really cool to see it grow from like 79, 80, when we were kind of like hanging out at punk shows and grabbing onto that energy.
Yeah.
And then seeing like from the stage, so Jerry Roach, infamous Jerry Roach, owned the Cuckoo's Nest, and he also owned Radio City. So they lost their dance license at the Cuckoo's Nest, and Radio City became kind of ground zero. In the Cuckoo's Nest days, we'd be playing with Agent Orange and Adolescence, and we'd see in the punk transition go from, and it really started with the girls, so it'd be good to get Kitty's perspective, because everybody's out there beating the hell out of each other slam dancing, and I love the energy, but then the girls started kind of showing up, and a few rockabilly folks, if you want to call them that, and then the girls were prettier than and then the guys started dressing, and all of a sudden that the rockabilly scene really started to take off, and then transition out to Radio City, and we had cut a record, She's My Angel, early on, and that one did okay. And then we did Let's Bop, which really took off and really did well for us. Like you say, it's cut one, side one of LA Rockabilly. Yeah. And that's an honor to be there with bands such as Los Lobos, Dave Alvin, a lot of the other bands that are on there. They're really, really good. I love that cut of Tearing My Hair Out. That brings back good memories with the Red Devils.
Eddie, one thing I wanted to talk about was K-Rock radio in Southern California. That was it. Like, you heard punk and everything. Like, that was the radio for everybody. And you got you were on what Ronnie Binghamheimer got you on that. Like, when we heard you on that, like, that made you fully legitimate. Like you guys were right up there next to U2 or whatever, like that.
Yeah. So Rodney was really kind to us. Jerry's a real good networker, and we knew that Rodney Bingenheimer would have his late night breakfasts at the Denny's off of the 101 over by Brewery 102 Factory. And we'd go over there and just sit with him and get him tapes and records and things, and he'd put it on. So that was awesome. We did a lot of really cool things with K-Rock, with the King Bees at the time, and they were doing like skate rink shows where it was just 1,000 kids would come in to skate and then bop on the dance floor after we're done. And we did a few of those with K-Rock. It was like right out of the Buddy Holly story where there's people skating and all of a sudden they're dancing and it was going crazy. Yeah. Super fun. And I got to say, Jimmy the St. Christopher at KNAC, before it became a heavy metal station, when it was, KNAC, and they had the Java Jive and all that, we could go and drive up to Long Beach, knock on the door. Hey, it's Rock and Rebels. Yeah, we want to see Jimmy the Saint. He's got a show going. And we come up and you go, hey, got a new record? Hey, we've got the Rock and Rebels in the studio. Let's put on their new record. Let's pop. Boom. And record sales would just pop when you got on the radio. I can't imagine nowadays being in a band and knocking on a radio station's door and having them invite you up, sight unseen, put your record on the air. You know, it was super wide open, super cool times, you know, really great.
Yeah, that does not happen.
Let me show
it
a couple
sounds like it was.
Oh, go ahead. I'm gonna show a couple more photos while you're going. Go ahead, Big Sandy.
Well, just to follow up on what Eddie's saying, to me it sounds like those guys. It was kind of like the tail end of what used to be, where you could walk into a place and get a record played like that. Because soon thereafter, that was impossible.
Right.
So to me, in my mind, that they're like the tail end of a really special thing that used to be. Yeah, that just there's a certain magic in my mind attached to that.
So if you hold in that picture there, Tom, so just to follow up on what Robert's saying was, it was really cool because I know you guys felt it too. We were living this life that almost felt like we were in this surreal movie, right? It was like Coal Miner's Daughter or the Buddy Holly story, where we would just show up and it was just like scenes from those movies. It was like I was always pinching myself. And this is the flyer when we that you just showed was when we did the record release, Blue Bop and vinyl with the first 500 copies of Let's Bop. Which, side note, those go on eBay for a lot of money now, I guess. But anyway, staying to point, we did two Radio City shows. You can see we're up at Whiskey in Hollywood. We did a show there with the Red Devils, James Entfield, the Blasters, Los Lobos, Rock and Rebels, and I think the door that cost $10 to get in. I mean, it was killer. And this record cover is a record that we did called Rock and Roll Saturday Night on gold vinyl, 4-song EP, and a little bit of story on on the Radio City. I lived in Huntington at the time, so we would drive up and do sound check up Highway 39, Beach Boulevard, up into Stanton. I know they said that club's in Anaheim, but I think it was in Stanton. But anyway, we'd do sound check and then we'd drive back down. And we'd always go by the Highway 39 drive-in. So the opening line to that song I wrote, Rock and Roll Saturday Night, is hot rods, drive-ins, and long neck bottles of beer. So I got the idea from always driving by Highway 39 that we'd hang out with, and drive-ins are kind of not as popular, obviously, anymore. But I got that idea. And then the hot rods from the guys that would show up at the show. And Jerry had a cool 57 Nomad too. And then the long neck bottles of beer. When we'd play, Jerry Roach would, part of your rider was he would give you a deli tray and you would get a case of long neck buds. And in those days, Budweiser, any beer, you couldn't get a long neck unless you bought it in a bar. So I'd smuggle out like 6 of those in my guitar case just so I'd have them at my house. So when we're shooting pool, I'd have a long neck bottle of Bud. And now you can get long necks in Pacifico, whatever you want. But back in the day, it was real collectible to get a long neck bottle of beer. It felt like you're right out of the wild one, And so it was a lot of fun. And just the energy inside the room was amazing. And our crowd was a younger crowd, and it was an underage club. So the energy was in there with the youth, and so it was just awesome. It was real pure. And then I know some of the others are going to talk about the craziness that was going on in the parking lot. But I was telling you guys a story earlier about, and I was either Jerry's 57, or I think Ken Dowd had a 58 Cadillac. But I don't know if anybody on listening in remembers a guy named Alabama J. I don't think he was a Ted. I don't think he was a Wildcat. And by the way, just saying, we didn't have any skin in either gang, so we were just happy to see everybody. Always made us a little sad when you guys were fighting, but you'll get into that later. But Alabama J, one time we came out after the show. We'd obviously been drinking a little bit, and it was either on Jerry's car or Ken's. He was hanging on to the back of the Cadillac with his cowboy boots, and he was water skiing like the car's going forward, hanging onto the fin, and he's water skiing in his cowboy boots, and it's wearing down his soles. and the nails that hold the cowboy boot soles on were scraping on the asphalt. There were sparks coming off the back of his boots as he's water skiing through the parking lot. And that's just one example of kind of the silliness that was going on. But, you know, American Graffiti, I don't want to be too cliche, but there's two movies that really affected my life. One was American Graffiti and the other is Big Wednesday. Yeah. And I swear to gosh, I felt like we were living American Graffiti. I would show up at a house party and we'd be listening to the radio, and KROQ would play Untamed Youth or play Let's Bop. And it was just surreal to be sitting there while everybody's kind of talking to you outside the party before you go in the radio. And all of a sudden a song that you wrote and recorded is coming out of the radio. And I swear to gosh, I always felt like we were living a movie, you know?
Yeah.
I still feel that way.
I know you do, you lucky dog, you lucky guy.
All right, well, thanks. Hey, we're going to move along, but hang out with us too if you got anything to add to it.
I have one question.
Absolutely.
Really
quick. You know you got to cut. You know you got to cut me off because I talk stories.
No.
Forever, you know?
Hold on a second.
Yeah. Security.
Everybody that's a musician in here, I gotta ask, and it's a brass question, but what's the payday looking like when you're sharing a bill with James Infield and all those awesome bands, and you're one of these clubs you just mentioned, or even the one at the
lingerie?
Not the lingerie, or wherever the show
the whiskey.
is posted here.
The whiskey.
The whiskey, or the Galaxy, which is the observatory now. I don't know. What's something like that? What's a payday?
No, the
looking
Galaxy
like
was
for
a
the
different
band?
place. That was the roller rink.
That was Billy Barty in Fullerton. He owned that, yeah.
Yeah, there was a Galaxy roller skate and a club, but I'll just jump in. I mean, our biggest paydays were the roller rink gigs. We played, I think it was Billy Barty's. We played with, I think, us and the Red Devils, and we took the door, and it was crazy. I swear to gosh, it was like that scene in the Buddy Holly store. We walked away with $4,000
What?
in our pockets. I took that $4,000 and I got a 54 Seaberg jukebox that I bought, and that would have been 81, 82. I still have it. I bought a jukebox from the Fun Zone in Newport for $350. So I still pocketed $650. And it's not about the money, but I'm just saying that was a big payday, those skate rink things. And the playing the whiskey and all that, if you didn't have to sell tickets, you know, if you're on a good bill, the Blasters, we played with X that night too. The Blasters and X, they were always really cool about sharing money. I mean, it was such a really cool scene. I mean, just Exene and Phil and all those guys are just really nice people, and they got it. They weren't greedy, you know?
All right, man. Well, and then
that's my 2 cents. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. You know, and before we go, next we're going to have Dan, and he's going to talk about the Wildcats, but I got one story I did want to tell. And let's see, back in those days, I just got my driver's license, and I had a 55 Ford pickup truck. And I was in the band, the Wildcats. Oh, wait, no, that's not the band I was in. That was a club I was in. Let's see if I have a Wildcat.
The Moondogs.
The Moondogs, that's the band, Robert. Hey, Robert, thank you for helping me there, sir. So anyways, this is the band that Robert was in, and we did pretty good over there because we had the Wildcats, and they were like our group. They always saw our band. So we ended up getting like 80 to 100 people to check out our band all the time. And it was just awesome. There we are. Yeah, that's Ron and Kenny and Robert and me on top of a roof. But anyways, the story I was getting to was I had a really good gig, and everyone was screaming for us, and I felt like top of the world. You're 17 years old, you want to play in a band, and everything is just going right. And I went there with my girlfriend, who happened to be the prom queen. That's her there, and that's me when I had hair. But anyway, so I'm driving in my truck. This yellow 55 Ford pickup truck, and she brought all of her friends, and they were all fairly good-looking women too. So and I'm in the bench seat of this 55 Ford pickup truck with my good-looking girlfriend next to me, and 3 or 4 of her really good-looking friends right next to her. And I'm driving away from the club, just had this great gig, and then some dude pulls up next to me, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, dude, you're living the life." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, dude, I am living the life." It's like, does it get any better than this? It was, you know, playing rock and roll with a really great crowd and a girl right by my side in a 55 Ford pickup truck. It was kind of like I had to laugh. I guess this is what it's like, you know. All I needed was Bob Falfa to pull up next to me and like challenge me to a race, and it would have been perfect. But anyway, let's go back to the Brady Bunch shot. Hey, Dan and Jim, you guys about ready to go here?
Yeah, this is pay-per-view. Remember.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Help these guys out.
All right. Okay, Dan, tell us what it was like. You guys rumbling each other and whatnot.
Well, first, just for those who, let me just say something. Just because, Tom, you said this at the very top of the show.
Yeah.
A lot of us who used to come out to those shows we all had our clubs /gangs. Well, In this area, you're either a Wildcat or a Ted. So here together, for the first time online, and for the first time in the modern age, we have Dan Riley, who is the leader of the Wildcats, and Jim Radzik, who's the leader of the Teds. So you guys, no fighting. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't, that's the only sound effect I have.
Jim and I met, I don't know, quite a few years after the whole scene. Him and Mouse were out at Cook's Corner, and we had a great time talking about old times and shooting the crap. And I've actually seen him a couple times since then. And he was at the Rhythm Collision, I think, 3 years ago. We had a great time, you know. So, you know, you wanted us to talk a little bit about Radio City, but the thing with Radio City was I was saying that there was not many under 21 clubs, and most of the rockabilly scene was all under 21. So you had a few little places here and there you could go see a band, or otherwise you'd see them at a party. But I remember going to Radio City, and the party was in the parking lot beforehand and even during, because half the kids that went couldn't raise the $5 or $10 to get in, so they just keep partying in the parking lot. And you know, there's this one time that everybody brings up about Radio City with the Wildcats and the Teds, and I'm going to set the record straight here for everybody. So I was invited to a party out in Fontana, which was, I don't know, would you say it was like your clubhouse out there, Jim? Would you say that would be a good way to describe it?
It kind of turned into that, yeah.
Yeah. So I get invited to a party out there, and I'm wearing my Wildcats jacket when I walk in the door, and Jeb, of course, right as I walk in, take that jacket off, you know, and I wasn't going to take it off, and we kind of went back and forth, and then next thing I know, I was in getting drunk with these guys, and I was pretty good friends with Derek, the kid. We were hanging out quite a bit. We were dating a couple girls that were friends with each other, and we just commenced to getting liquored at this party, you know. And back then, you know, it was like, you know, you're not a man unless you can drink Jack Daniels and keep up with everybody. Especially if you're at a Ted's party, you better get, you know, hold your own and get some drinks in you. Anyway, we go to leave. Derek's driving this 62 Chevy Impala. That was a pile of shit or crap, however, I'm sorry. But anyway, no stereo. And as we're walking away from this party out in Fontana, which we all fondly called Fontucky, it's all kind of dirt streets and, you know, no sidewalks on it. Well, there's a pinto in the door wide open and the dome light on. And Derek and me stumble to the car, and he says, check it out. There's a great stereo in that car. And I'm like, yeah, cool, you know, whatever. And he goes, let's get it. And he jumps in the car, and he starts trying to get this stereo out of the car. You know, so who am I to let a buddy down, you know? I jump in. I'm trying to help him get this stereo out of the car, and we just too drunk to get it. So I ripped the whole dash out. And we broke the radio out of it and went home and thought nothing was going to happen. And I think it was Jim that called. I was living at Kitty's house, and Connie came in and woke me up and said, there's somebody on the phone there, not happy. So I get on the phone, and it was Jim asking me, did you steal a car stereo last night, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like, yeah, I did. And he says, you were with a kid? And I'm like, yeah. And he's going through all this stuff about it. And so then I get I go back to bed, and a few minutes later, I get a phone call from this guy that I went to high school with. And he's telling me it's his sister, and I better get over to their shop. I better have the stereo. I better have money. I go over there, apologize profusely, you know, give them whatever $20 I scraped up in my pocket, you know. And anyway, so Derek tells me, do not go to Radio City tonight. And I'm like, why? And he goes, because you're going to get your ass beat. And I said, well, dude, we got it coming to us. You know, it's going to happen one way or the other, whether it's at Radio City or, you know, Eisenhower Park or whatever it is. So I said, let's just go face the music. Well, Derek didn't want any part of it. So I go to the show, and it was so funny because there was a lot of Teds there, and you could just feel the friction. And I kept thinking all night, oh, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen now. Well, it didn't happen until I think after the second band played. We all went outside, and I saw Jim walking towards me. And I'm like, yep. I goes, is it time? And Jim goes, it's time. So all I told myself was, you're going to take a beating. I told all the Wildcats, stay out of this. This is my thing. You guys don't need to be doing any of this. and they were all ready to jump in a fight. But as was said, we were talking about earlier, you got to remember something. The Wildcats were surfer kids, Villa Park kids, Yorba Linda. We had a few tough guys from Chino and a few of us. They were young. The Teds were damn near grown men, you know. So for them to say we're going to fight the Teds, this would have been a bloodbath in the parking lot of Radio City. So anyway, Jim comes up, and I don't remember too much about the whole thing. All I remember was telling myself, take the beating, don't go down to the ground. So Jim came up, and I remember the horror stories. Jim used to have this class brimstone in it. You remember that, Jim?
Yeah.
He's buzzed. So anyway, this thing was like stories.
Yeah.
It would tear flesh off of people's faces. So all I told Jim was turn your ring around. He turned his ring around. The beating proceeded. I just kept telling myself, don't drop to the ground. I don't know how many guys it was. I don't know how many hits I took. I just remember at one point I got really a good punch in the side of the head, and I said, all right, you guys are done. That was it. We shook hands. Everything was great. You know, it was all over with. Derek never came back around. Never saw him again after that. But that was what the whole Rumble was about. I'll let Jim elaborate on that.
Dan, if I can.
Now, Jim, what say ye?
Yeah.
No, that's pretty accurate. That much respect to. He didn't go down, and me, it was Johnny and I, and he took some hard shots.
Scott, I'll get you.
So
I still feel them.
They still hurt every time he laughs.
And the joke was on me because when I turned my ring around, I cut my hand.
Well, you know, so the funny thing was at Radio City, you know, Eddie had said earlier that, you know, he didn't like it when the guys fought, but you got to remember, you know, the movies that we were watching that really drove us on this was, you know, Lords of Flatbush, Loveless, The Wanderers, you know, Rumblefish. I mean, there were so many. So that was part of the deal. I mean,
The Outsiders.
What's that, buddy?
The Outsiders.
Yeah, The Outsiders, of course.
And Dan, I want to add into your story there. Yeah, I wanted to add into your story because I was there, and I was one of the little guys. I was 15, 16 years old. Radzik back then, I swear, was 25, 28 years old. I was scared. I'm still scared of him today, and it's 35 years later probably. But I was there, and I remember that line of guys was. I said it was like the line on the movie Airplane, where they were all lining up with a different level of weaponry. And you took a good probably eight shots before you went down, and then they let you go. But the guy in the front was the littlest Ted I think you guys had, and he was real brave because he had everybody behind him. And then Pete Stearns, Gunner, I hope he's on here tonight. Gunner came flying through on the right-hand side with his chain, and there was a fight off to the side, and it was a pretty crazy night, especially when your areas. There's Gunner. He was sticking up for you, Dan, on the right-hand side. I was watching.
There's a buck 05.
Yeah.
This is the guys that I'm talking about. That guy would have got murdered, you know? I mean, some of the Teds, I was talking about this earlier. You guys ever met Big Ed? Big Ed was a grown man that they pulled out of a biker bar and gave him a Ted's jacket. This guy was freaking huge. And I remember when we played football, when the Teds and the Wildcats played football against
I
each
remember
other.
that,
Yeah.
So Big Ed shows up with a tank top, and he's got this patch of hair on one shoulder. It looked like he was wearing a toupee on his shoulder. I'll never forget that. But, you know,
I've read some talk about the football game.
Yeah. We got our asses kicked.
Hey,
Well,
man.
I always said from that football game, people ask me, have you ever broke a collarbone? And I said, yeah, I did. Man, it looked like it hurt too.
We all came out of that black and blue.
You know, it was funny because after that, you know, we'd been to a couple Ted's parties after that. I think we kind of, you know, buried that situation behind us. But, you know, and Jim, forgive me for this, but back in those days, any situation you went to was volatile. You could have been the best of friends and look at the guy's girlfriend or whatever, and you were in a fight again. But that was, like I said before, that was the thing. You know, when there was problems with guys, we would put it in the Wildcats. We'd make a circle, and they'd get in the middle of the circle, and they'd duke it out, make them shake hands, and it was over with. You know, there was no drive-bys or anything like that. I mean, it was, you handled it like, you know, a couple of men, and then it was over.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. We just settled it in house, and sometimes a couple of the guys would just take off on their own, and they just come back beat up. We never asked who won or how they settled it because they were friends again, and it was all good.
Hey, Dan, I was wondering, man, could we talk about the elephant in the room and get straight to Eisenhower Park and what happened over there?
Sure.
I'd like to know, sir.
Oh, talk about the outsiders moment. Yeah.
So I noticed Julian's on. So sorry, Julian, but I'm gonna kind of not throw you into the bus, but throw you in the bus a little bit. So Julian was our playboy back in the day. That guy had, you know, he came from a well-to-do family. He good sharp dresser. I mean, you got to remember back in the 80s, there was 3 types of rockabillys. You had a cowboy kind of rockabilly, you had a greaser, then you had a guy that wore creepers and baggies. Julian was always decked out to the T's. So anyway, Julian was kind of messing around with a few of the Ted's kind of girls, you know. And we were in Villa Park, they were in Villa Park, so it started kind of getting to be an animosity. So the rumor came out that the Teds were going to come to Eisenhower Park, and there was going to be a big rumble. So I think it was Tuesday nights. We used to meet like every Tuesday night or something like that.
It was Wednesday nights, yeah.
Every Wednesday night. Every Wednesday night, buddy.
You know, do you guys remember we used to collect money for the
what?
meetings, and by the end of the meeting, we were sending someone to go buy Lucky Lager, you know?
Yeah.
But,
and that reminds
so
me,
anyway,
I got to put up our Venmo.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Plug for Venmo. Tom needs some more of the Lucky Lagers. So anyway, that we'd been hearing this rumor for quite a while, and finally we heard it was coming. So I told the Wildcats, I said, "Hey, this is going to happen. If you don't show up, you're out of the club." Well, I think, roughly speaking, we had 40 to 50 guys in the Wildcats, and most of them were young, little, small guys. So when it came down to the deal, when we were at the tree, there was maybe what? Yeah, roll Robert, come on now. Easy, Teddy.
I was talking to, yeah.
So we got these guys that are all sitting around the tree, and then it was kind of like a movie. You could just kind of, it was like I don't know, like a stampede of horses coming up behind the hill. You could hear the Teds coming. And all of a sudden, about half the Wildcats that were there were gone, just gone. And we see these tall men over the hill. And some of them got bats, some got chains. And you know, I said, Tom Almazar and like Scott and them, they all came from a pretty clean-cut church background in Yorba Linda. And I remember Tom telling me before the fight, Dan, I don't believe in fighting and I don't believe in all that, but I'll be there and I'll support the club. At one point I looked over, Scott Willie, you were out at that point, weren't you,
Yeah, I'd
Scott?
left 2 months before that, so I wasn't there.
Yeah, but I look over and Tom Almazar is rolling around with a few guys, so his halo got a little dented that day. But I just remember they're all running by us, and I'm just like ready to hit somebody, and they're all running by me. And all of a sudden I see Brady come up from behind the tree, and he's got his eyes locked on me. And I'm like, well, I guess it's going to be Brady. So Brady comes running up, and I go to take a swing, and as I turn, I was wearing some old creepers, and the sole ripped off. I go ass over tea kettle on the ground. Brady jumps on top of me, and then you guys all remember Big Rich, Redneck's big brother. I was telling him it's like that cartoon. You shouldn't have done that, little fella. Rich comes up and grabs Brady off me like a rag doll and tosses him aside, and I get back up, and we join the fight again. But it was all, I think, Robert, didn't you say it seemed like hours, but it was only like maybe a couple minutes, if that?
Absolutely. And in my mind, but I'm pretty sure at the time too, it was all playing out in slow motion.
Yeah.
It's very cinematic in my mind. Like, it did seem like it lasted forever, but no, I mean, it wasn't that long, but you know.
I remember Jim coming up the hill, and I looked at this crowd of dudes, and I'm like, hold on, that's not all Teds. Like half of those guys are surfers from the school, and they'd say, hey, you want to rumble? Come on with us. Let's go and rumble. And Jim, I think Jim had like bare feet, and I could hear his like chain rambling on his pants. And "You've been talking about the Teds, now you're gonna pay." And I'm all, dude, I gotta write that down for my movie. And man, and the rumble commenced, dude. Like they were going full bore, and all of a sudden it was like, it was over in 90 seconds. But you're right, Robert. Like I was thinking, like I could in slow motion, I could see the guy swinging at me, and at the end of it, like Robert turned into this big old. Like he's a nice guy, but like he got all amped up, and he's all, "Get the hell out of here!" You know, to some guy, and threw him against the bathroom, and it was kind of,
yeah. So Big Rich's little brother was redneck. He was a little guy, so Rich was grabbing guys as the Teds were leaving, because they came in, hit, and then took off. So Rich and me are chasing down whoever we can grab that's running, and Rich would grab and say, "Don't over F with redneck little brother," and hit them and move on. But they it was like a wave. They came in, boom, and then went out. I mean, Jim,
that actually was part of the deal, because by that point, so many of our guys were on probation. They were terrified of getting in trouble.
Well,
so
and Dan, for us, there was problems. I remember around that time, maybe a little after that, you got us all together for a little talking, because by that point, you know, our little clubs were listed with the police department. You know, we were listed as gangs. You know, right?
Yeah.
So you were just saying, man,
that's right.
Come on, guys, no weapons,
you're a car
you were
club
just
until you
trying to
get in
take-
trouble. Then you're a gang.
No, I remember you giving us that talking to, man. You guys, hey, whatever you need to do, you whatever, you know, do whatever you need to do. But you guys got to keep it kind of be cool, man. You know.
Yeah. Do you remember, Robert, that when we were at Handy Park, I had that one cop that always come looking for me because I had warrants, and he'd come like every other week to make sure, hey, you took care of your warrants or everything, and he'd try to hide me or whatever.
Yeah.
We were, you know, a bunch of hoodlums.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing, Jim, you probably never, I don't know if I told you this story when we talked last, but so the end of this whole thing, I basically was so ticked off that so many of our guys
Let's go rumble.
Yeah. So we're all meeting, and we're down a fire pit in Newport Beach, and we're all sitting around the fire, and I said, "Hey, you know, you guys proud of this club? Because I'm not. You know, a lot of guys ran, blah blah blah." And I said, "As far as I'm concerned, this club's over." And I took my Wildcat, my cut off.
Hey.
There you go. But remember, mine was black. Mine was black with a white Wildcat. I took it off. I threw it in the fire. Terry Howell threw his in the fire. Somebody else did too. And once they burned, we were sitting there passing a bottle of Jack Daniels back and forth. We reached in the fire, grabbed some of the ashes. I put them in the Jack Daniels, shook it up. We chugged the last of it, threw them away. I said, if I ever see anybody wearing a Wildcat jacket, I would beat the hell out of you. So, you know, fast forward, what's it been now, 30 years, whatever. And we had our little reunion at Rhythm Collision with Axel. And I saw a Wildcat jacket for the first time in probably 30 years, whatever. And I'm so glad they all didn't get burned. I'm glad a few of you guys ran. You know?
No, I didn't run. I didn't run.
I've got mine. I can't even fit one arm into it, but I have it.
That picture's great. Old Smiley Lewis there on the end. You know, we were talking earlier too, real quick on the clubs, and I'm going to turn this over to let Jim talk. But you know, we were trying to think about all the different clubs and talking with Axel and stuff. There were quite a few clubs. I mean, the Alley Cats, who I partied with a lot, and Jason actually texted me today and said if I mentioned the word Utopia, I was going to have to pay royalties. If you guys don't know what Utopia is, it was an oil field. I can't remember if it was Newport or what, but we would go out to this oil field, climb over the fence, take a bunch of beers, a bunch of girls, climb up on the rig and ride those rigs and drink beer all day. And then I saw Babyface's on here. Babyface would sit there and put his hand in and out of the gear, trying not to get his hand cut off. You know, so we had the Alley Cats. We had, I think the Rebel Rousers were a club that like Julian and a couple of the guys were in before that. The Clan Tones. You had the Crazy Eights, the Little Bastards. You had the Bombers from up in Lake Arrowhead. That was Russell Scott was originally one of them. The Speedsters in L.A. I know I'm missing a bunch of them here. I wrote a bunch of them down. I can't remember them, but great times, a lot of clubs, a lot of fun times. And I'm going to let Jim talk now.
Yeah. Jim, what else happened?
It's funny. It exploded. I mean, it started off as just kind of a fun little car club. We had the similar interests, and we looked for a name that would fit us, and we kind of settled on the Teddy Boys out of out of England, and then they shortened it to the Teds, which took some explaining to some people because everybody just, hey, are you guys all named Ted? It was a kind of initially it was kind of a challenge, and then just little by little, all of a sudden, more and more people started wanting to join it, and a lot, you were right. A lot of them were we were in high school, they were out of high school, and the crowd kept getting older, the club kept getting bigger, and we started getting crazier, and it kind of just perpetuated itself. I mean, at one point, we had one club member, you can probably guess who this was, and
Jackrabbit?
And we were down at 32nd Street, and he said, "What do I got to do to be in your club?" And we were going to let him in anyway. I mean, this guy was great times, man. And I told him, "You got to bring me back a ponytail. You got to go cut me a ponytail right now." And he jumped up and chased some guy down on a bicycle and tackled him and took out his knife and sawed off his ponytail.
Oh, God.
and he got arrested for it. We had a big fight afterwards, and it turned into a big ordeal. And I realized, man, there's some people you can't joke with like that. I mean, they're so.
Now I'm starting to see that again. Before we went on air, I said, "Man, it's so weird, Jim, to see you now. You're such a sweetheart of a guy." Now I'm seeing that monster again.
Someone just
But I tell you, it was bigger than me, man. These guys, they just took it to another level, and then pretty soon I was just keeping up. It was good times.
Jackrabbit, that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely. Yep. Yeah, it was he and Red that day.
I forgot to mention the Ravens, man, because the Ravens were our friends in Riverside, and boy, we had some good times with those guys too.
And Jim,
absolutely, and a few of our club members out in Riverside, they spent a lot of times with the Ravens, like Johnny Lytle, and so it was good. We had a good clique. I mean, our groups meshed pretty well. We had some little problems with the Wildcats and the Teds, but it was good fun. It was harmless. Nobody got hurt.
And Jim, I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you, because I've always wondered, because myself, Tom Almanzar, Kenny Solheim, Pete Gunner Stearns, we started the Wildcats just as a small group of guys that were going to Radio City and hanging out with the Moondogs. And it grew really big over the years, but all we wanted to do was be the Teds. That was our goal, is to try to emulate what you guys created and had, and it was so cool. But where did you guys come from? Because I heard about the Teddy Boys in Europe and the UK, but how did you guys grab onto the Teds, the name?
Well, the Stray Cats, obviously had a big influence, and they had been performing in England, and so that scene in England was real big at the time, and so it just kind of evolved, and it was if you look at the logo, the Teds, the tail on it is very similar to the Wanderers, and so that movie had a big influence as well. Yeah. So we added that tail to the Teds, and so and it kind of grew from that. We used to make all our own jackets. I had a stencil, and we painted them on my mom's ironing board, and pretty soon.
Yeah,
pretty soon it got to where we were having to make a lot of jackets, and the jacket became kind of a pride thing, and even when Sharky died, his girlfriend had his jacket, and we wanted to bury that jacket because they sent Sharky back east, so we had to she wouldn't give it to us, so we had devised a plan to get that jacket from her, including distracting her and breaking into her house through the back window. And we had a big scheme. And of course, when we went there that day and knocked on her door and said, "Hey, Gina, can we have his jacket?" She goes, "Yeah, I thought about it. Here you go." And she handed it over, and it was pretty uneventful. But we ended up raising some money at a party and then buried that jacket. He's got a tombstone there. And so we would go there and party with him in the cemetery.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. And we all remember Sharky too.
Yeah, he's a good
I
kid,
don't know.
man.
I don't know if you got time, but I got a Sharky story. So
Yeah,
we
go
were
for it,
at,
Eddie.
we were at Radio City, and we're playing, and Sharky comes in, and he's got this pompadour that's like 4 feet high, maybe 3. It's ginormous. And he's like he's out there bopping. And it's like a man of war. It's like the top of a man of war, just like going left and right and all crazy. And I'm like, dude, how did you get a pompadour that big? And he said he was hanging upside down like on a pull-up bar in the bathroom with his hair down and hair spraying it that way. It's the craziest pompadour I ever saw. It was I'll never forget that. You know, it was good. It was good fun. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's see. We're gonna go back to. Let's have Kitty. Let's hear it from the girls' side of what was going on with because we talked about fighting and dudes and stuff like that. I assume the girls were fighting as well. Laurel, is that true?
Yeah, you know what? That's completely opposite. We didn't really fight. We were pretty cool with everybody. There was a little bit of, oh, she's this or that, but we kind of all dug each other, and it was pretty cool.
And
so we didn't really do a lot of fighting. In fact, we were trying to get a club together called the Wild Kittens. And so because what we would do is when the guys were getting together with their meetings, we would, God, I'm so sexy there.
Aquanet for days.
We would go to the meetings as well, but we obviously couldn't sit in with the guys. So the girls would sit around and just kind of chit chat and whatnot and talk about the boys. And then we said, well, what the heck? Why don't we make a club too? And we actually never got around to it because we couldn't decide on what color do we have our jackets or who's going to be the lead person and everything. So we just decided, never mind, we'll just hang out and just be cool. So then one of the other crazy things is like, we go to the clubs and we call them gigs. We go there and the guys would sit around and they'd be all bopping and stuff. And they're like, yeah, come on, let's go dance and woo. And all the girls are standing around going, what the heck, guys? We want to swing dance. What are you guys doing? So the girls would dance with themselves a lot, and the guys were just kind of oblivious. Well, there were a few that danced really well. And so, of course, we all drooled over those guys because they knew how to dance. So that was kind of funny.
So it wasn't like the dudes that were fighting and playing in bands that you cared for. It was the guys that could dance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the guys in the bands, of course, we would all be all swooning over everybody. But the guys that could dance really got our attention because, they put in an effort to dance with us. So that got us all excited.
Yeah.
That's cool. But it was those bad boys that ended up with all of y'all as like a girlfriends.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'm just saying that. Well, you can say that now, but it was all those bad boys that ended up with all the cool girlfriends, like from your group of
Oh, the bad boys.
So you may. Yeah, the ones who were brawling. Oh, yes.
Was that a bad boy?
Hello. Wait a minute now. Yes.
He's a sweetheart, though.
Let's talk about that.
I love Terry.
Oh yeah, we all did.
Yeah.
He did my hair in this picture too.
Laurel, Kitty, to all of us who are around there. You held a lot of it together though, because we would always check in. We're coming up. You always kept us informed of what was going on. Because you let us know what shows that we needed to be at. What was before the internet, anything like that. You were a connection.
What was the question?
It was like, he was saying that you guys were the connection before the internet. Like you knew all the gigs, you knew what was going on, and you let everybody know. You and Gina Lee.
Yeah,
yes.
It was pretty funny because people would call my house and they would be like, "Oh, where's the party tonight?" Or, "Hey, what's going on?" And so I'd be the central place to call, and I'd tell everybody where to go. And then when I left to go somewhere, my mom would take over, and she'd be looking at the notes, going, "Okay, go over here, and there's a party over at Mikey's house or whatever." And so that's what she would do. And then another really cool thing that my mom did that I probably shouldn't admit to, but she would say, if your friends want to drink, send them on over and we'll let them drink. I'll get a keg and they can drink and have a good time. Just they have to give me their keys and they can't leave until they're done drinking.
Was that with this guy too? We're gonna.
Why are you using Dan to illustrate
He
that
lived
story?
with me, so he was stuck. Yeah, and then I just wanted to point out my cool Pendleton. I got this at a thrift store, probably for like $3 or $4 maybe. And it's from the window display at Disneyland. I got it when I was a kid. It was probably in maybe 85 or something like that. And then
handsome.
brought. Here's a very cool purse. It's just one of a bazillion that I still have. It's in amazing shape. And I probably got this for like $2. And now people are like, I'll pay $75 for that thing. I'm like, yeah, no. I love them still. I still use them.
Well, tell me about, too, like when back in those days, where did you get all your clothes? Like, we were trying to get clothes because you go to like Miller's Outpost and they had like, you know, whatever clothes, but we just go with 501s and try to get some kind of a Pendleton shirt, and you go to like Lucky Elephant, or what was it down in Orange Circle? There was like you could get stuff there.
Penny Lane.
Razzmatazz.
I think it was called Penny Lane and Gaslamp.
Penny Lane, and then I used to
All
go
of those,
to Gasoline Alley. That was my main place. Besides thrift stores, I loved thrift stores. But the cool thing about the Gasoline Alley is I was really good friends with the owner, Donna, and I would wear the clothes and keep them for a long time, and then I'd be like, you know what, I want something new, and so I would just take my clothes and kind of recycle them. And then one time I saw my sweater on a TV show, which was pretty cool. So
I was telling everybody about Kitty's crenolines and her petticoats and stuff. When I used to live with Kitty, she had them all in the corner of our room that we shared. And I swear to God, it looked like a Coleman tent because they were so big and poofy. They took up half the room in there. But she had to have every single one she could get a hold of.
So, Kitty, did you ever go down to Tippy Canoes down in Laguna Beach? They used to support the Rock and Rebels. They'd hang up flyers for all the different bands. It's called Tippy Canoes. I don't know if you can
They
hear
had
me.
great stuff there.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard that, Kitty, but I
Tippy
saw somebody
Canoes?
comment on Tippy Canoes.
oh
and
yeah,
yeah, it was really cool. We go in there and $3 for a cool panel shirt, or $5 for a pair of baggies, and so yeah, it was like treasure hunting, right? You'd go and find things in these thrift stores, and you'd make stuff out. To get two-tone shoes, we'd take golf shoes and take the spikes out of the bottom of them, and they were super cool looking black and white two-tone shoes, But I would get electrocuted on the microphone when I'd be singing. I'm connecting a circuit, and I get snapped because I fell on the bottom of the shoe.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're Tim Polecat. Make a circuit with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Eddie's talking about making like golf shoes, like spray painting golf shoes, and so they're two-tone. Just homemade stuff. And I assume you guys did, because like at the time it wasn't, you couldn't, like now you can find find clothes like that around town, but there, it was either like Angel Flight jeans, but you couldn't find anything stuff. You had to find legitimate stuff.
I disagree. I
Really?
disagree.
Okay, tell me.
I think about all of the wonderful stuff I used to come across, like for like $1 or $2, but that was too much. I'm not going to pay $3 for this Fleck jacket. I wish I would have bought everything that I used
what
to
I'm
see
saying
back
is,
then.
the stuff was real. It's not like it was brand new made. You could go buy it.
No, it's not repro stuff. It was
it was real
stuff.
back then. Yeah.
Yeah, but you gotta remember though that the stuff was already 40 years old when we bought it. The threads were rotting on it. One good bop session, those baggies were toast.
Yeah.
Whether that was on the dance floor
really
or
lucky
elsewhere.
because the 80s weren't that far away from the 50s, and people were probably just starting cleaning out their mom's clothes and taking them to the thrift store. And so really that was a treasure trove of stuff. I mean, seriously, we totally scored. Sometimes when we would go with our girlfriends and we'd find a dress, and I still to this day remember there's a dress that Randy got that I still want, but no. So we had a lot of fun clothes shopping for sure.
Yeah, man.
And I agree with Yvonne. Katie, you still look wonderful.
Yeah,
She always does.
Yeah, they say Kitty can't hear us that well, but yeah, Yvonne says, Kitty, Laurel Robinson Gunn, you look wonderful. That's what Yvonne says.
Aww.
That's pretty good.
I remember baby Yvonne. I was one of the guys who used to drive around and pick up certain people to take them to the shows, like the chauffeur. And she was a man. It's funny when I look at her at Yvonne's daughter now, because like she was younger than her daughter is now. And I used to take her to the show. I can't believe that anybody would allow like a brand new teenager to come out with me to go to a show. But I was safe in that regard. But she was one of the ones I used to take to shows back then.
Yeah.
One of the funny stories about Robert with that 57 Chevy, he did cart a lot
56.
of us around. 56. Four-door.
Four-door.
But I do remember one of my favorite memories of Robert was us trying to be suave and pick up on girls. We'd sit in the parking lot at South Coast Plaza, and Robert would bring his guitar out and sing Elvis tunes. And we really thought we were getting somewhere, but didn't really work out that well for us, did it, Robert? That or the Orange Mall, or maybe it did.
Well, I remember we would park outside a Nightscape. And,
oh my God!
So eventually there would be some beautiful girl that would come outside crying because her boyfriend was dancing, because her new romantic boyfriend was dancing with some other girl, whatever. And there we were out my car. I'll be playing some Elvis tunes. Now we had a little, it didn't always pan out, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Here's
Robert,
a funny story about Nightscape. I'm sorry, am I going over somebody?
Yeah, who was that? You, Eddie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick. Did you guys go to like cruise night at Angelo's? Because Johnny Ray Bartel, Jerry Prefontaine, and myself, we could go on cruise night, and there were plenty of girls that wanted to hear the acoustic rockabilly. It was crazy good times.
I showed a picture from there.
Yeah, I saw that
in that video. Yeah. I think that Alabama guy was in one of those pictures there.
Robert's talking about Nightscape. Nightscape was under 21 club in Orange, somewhere where the main place kind of is now. And I mean, it was completely new row. All the girls looked like Susie from Susie and the Banshees. And I remember going in there one night. Terry, Hal, and I had walked into the bathroom, and all these new row guys when they're doing their eyeliner and their makeup and everything. And Terry whips it out and just pisses all over their makeup on the sink. And we both just walked out of there, and I could not believe that. But I mean, that was the time. I mean, we were,
Now, Danny, I know some guys that. Oops, sorry. I was just going to say, I know some guys that wore some eyeliner. I won't name names, but you know who you are, that wore the guy liner.
I have no idea.
Saying.
Must had to make my mustache come in somehow.
I know. I think I've been known to do that at some point when I was trying to figure out, not that, but there was a time where, you could be into rockabilly, but also, wait a minute, Adam Ant, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? So like there were makeup nights.
Tell me
anyway,
if I'm
go
wrong,
ahead.
But I think Elvis even he wore some eyeliner, I think, on the ground on the operator.
Oh yeah, mascara and the whole deal.
Mascara, and it ticked everybody off. Bill Monroe wasn't so hip to it. But I'll testify, I've had some lower eyeliner on before.
I don't know if you guys are watching the comments, but some of these are great. Thumper just joined in. I haven't talked to Thumper in a long time. You guys remember him?
Yeah.
But there's some pretty funny comments coming in on this.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then somebody, I guess Kitty can't hear me, but I did. Just because I know you were very close to your mother. My mother is sending her regards. She asked if you remember her, Kitty. You remember my mom, I'm sure.
Yeah, Kitty, yeah, you remember Angie, don't you, Kitty?
Of course, absolutely. How can I've known her since I was like a little kid, so.
Yeah, she says hi, of course.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Isn't it weird? We were kids. That's so weird. We were just little teens. We teens.
Yeah. Hey, well, I gotta take it on over to Axel now. He's gonna let us know about what it was like over in Riverside, which is, when you're not really driving that well. Like Riverside could be like Hawaii. But anyway, but here's Axel. Axel, tell us what was going on. You were in the Ravens, you were in Riverside, and you were working on a cool car. What was it like back then?
Well, I still have my jacket.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, let's see the bottom. What does it say down there?
That's one thing we haven't talked about. Almost everybody in the 80s had a nickname. My nickname was Speedy because I've always been into cars.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Dan was killer.
I'd like to say a little something. I'd like to pay our respect or dedicate tonight's show to all the fallen Rockabillys that have passed. What do you think about that, Tom?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'd like to acknowledge Rick Infelt, Brett Southard, a.k.a. Sharky from the Teds, my dear, dear friend, like a brother in the Ravens. He passed away a couple years ago, James Corner. Big Daryl Harris. A lot of you guys remember Daryl. Jake Briggs, Anthony Castaneda, and Eric Mosky.
Jake Briggs, Jake the Snake.
Yeah, you can't talk about 80s rockabilly without talking about Jake.
He's the one that gave me my nickname.
Yeah.
We won't ask Al.
Okay, I grew up in Santa Ana. I lived in Santa Ana from 1972 to 1982, right when my parents' brother and I moved to Riverside. Things were changing. We just got finished with the 1970s, the disco era and long hair and all that stuff. But right before I moved to Riverside, the rockabilly stuff was coming out, the preppy look, the new wave look, all that stuff. So I got into it right when I moved to Riverside, the summer of '82. And it was just so different out here. Not so much now, but back in the early 80s. I mean, we had cowboys in our high school. People rode horses, no joke. Cowboy hats, the Wrangler jeans, the big belt buckle, and then the other portion of high school were long-haired heavy metal dudes. And being alternative in Riverside back then was just not acceptable. It was not like Orange County or LA, so it was a lot different. But in time, you met a couple other like-minded rockabilly dudes in high school, and then from other high schools. But it was just a lot different out here back then. If I had to guess, we probably had all over the Inland Empire. We probably had a dozen rockabillys. It was not like Orange County. So
yeah, you couldn't even pull off a good rumble with only 12 guys. We had like 120.
It seemed to me like you had more though.
We somehow managed. I've always been
Wildcats
always been in a rockabilly. We had, unlike LA and what you guys had in Orange County, we had two forms of entertainment. From La Sierra High School, we had a local rockabilly band called the Stingrays.
Yeah, TK was in that, right?
No, that's a different Stingray.
It's a different Stingrays.
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
And then we had, and I remember a lot of you guys.
Those were
remember
Teds.
him, Sean Castillo, up in Arrowhead.
Yeah,
he was
a
bomber.
great singer, guitar player. So that was like our only
You're right there, Dan.
bands. But our hangout, other than the local hot rod cruise night, Tuxie's Drive-In, but where bands when they came into town in Riverside was UCR, the Barn, and saw a lot of bands there. But I didn't like Riverside at first, but I quickly learned to adjust and fall in love with it out here. That's why I still live out here. It was just very country living, and you could spread your wings, and it was just really cool. Yeah. I soon joined the Ravens, and there was probably about 6 of us, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And
well, actually, one of the things I would say is that you upped the bar because we got into the music and all the other stuff, but you were the guy that I knew who got into the cars, or a handful of guys who said, I'm going to take it to the next level, start working on cars, learn this craft. Is that when did that start for you?
Because of my father. So in 1982, my dad had a 66 Mustang restored, And in 1983, he bought himself a 55 Chevy Nomad and gave me the Mustang. And that just, both cars, we'd go to cruise nights, and it'd be the only Rockabilly guy there. Maybe there would be two of us.
Yeah.
But, and then I traded the Mustang 6 months later for a GTO, and I traded that 6 months later for another GTO. And then by the end of high school, I got a cherry canary yellow 55 Chevy Post with a 327 turbo 400 trans. And that was like my first introduction to having like a real hot rod. And then from there on, I had that throughout the late 80s. But one guy that we haven't mentioned tonight that when we would venture to Orange County, and he really inspired my buddy Jeff Vodden and I, was Big Phil. Yes. And he was the hot rod dude of the Rockabilly scene in Orange County. He had a Model A coupe, and he had a 34 Ford 5-window coupe. And he being older than us, I just thought, man, he's got his own pad, his own, he's got his gals coming out every weekend, his hot rods. It was like that was just it for me. But building hot rods and stuff didn't come till later, Tom, until the early 90s, which I'll talk about.
Well, okay, yeah.
When we get into part 2 of this series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
but that's a good point that Kenny brings up there.
Not to sound arrogant, but I'm so passionate for some unexplainable reason. I'm and always have been so passionate about the 80s, and to this day, that's why I'm just so happy that tonight is happening.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Robert had something to say. Hold on. Go ahead, Robert.
Well, I'm going to say two things. First of all, you're the one carrying really the flame of the 80s. So the Rockabilly thing, if you've noticed that all of the photos that have been used are taken from your Facebook page, which is probably the best collection. If anybody ever wants to know what was going on in this area at that time, just go to Axel's page. Can you tell us a little bit about that in case people want to follow up on this show and find out a little bit more? All of the photos we've used here and so much more are right there on your page.
Yeah. Axel, he was saying that how on your Facebook page, we basically stole all the photos for our stuff from your page. How you're the one who get all that stuff together.
Thanks, Robert, for bringing that up. So, I've just been I'm a nostalgia person to begin with, but because of my passion and love for the 80s, I behind the scenes got a hold of Robert and then Kitty and Mouse and Yvonne and then Jim Radzik and Dan Riley. And I said, this happened 10 years ago exactly. Give me some pictures. This needs to be shown. This needs to be here. And I had an overwhelming amount of pictures from the Rockabilly days of the 80s that I started the SoCal 1980s Rockabilly page on Facebook. And it's been a cool thing. I haven't been on there because I got hacked on that doggone page, but we'll get on there again and start posting some cool stuff. And the past few days, people have sent me probably 50 more pictures from the 80s that have never before been seen. So that's pretty cool.
Part 2.
But, I'd like to say something about Robert, if I could.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parallels with Robert and I, in that our passions carried on to our professions. He being an entertainer and me being a show promoter. We took the Rockabilly days from the 80s, and he and I never really stopped being Rockabilly guys, for lack of better terms, and going to gigs and doing the shows and stuff. And it's been pretty cool all these years, Robert.
Well, hey, let me reach across through my camera and shake your hand, buddy. Yeah, man.
I gotta say something.
I'll tell you. Funny, I remember. I think it was Jake that first talked. We mentioned him earlier that first started telling me about the Ravens, and we need to, connect with them. And it's just funny how you end up connecting with people way back then. I'm glad we're still friends, my friend. Thank you. Thanks for being part of this.
So, I met you, Robert. I distinctly remember this. It was 1985. The guys from Orange County started coming out, hanging out with us Ravens. Bill Corner, he had a little house there in West Riverside, a little town called Glen Avon. But I walked into Bill's house one night, and Robert and a bass player, a friend of ours in the Ravens, by
Gator?
the name of Gator, were
Gator, man.
in this
Chin Gator.
corner of the room, and Gator was playing guitar, and then later on a bass, and Robert was singing, and they were just bouncing ideas off each other, and that shows you how long ago or how early on the passion that I'm talking about. Robert was doing this so long ago, and it's really cool. So
yeah.
Hey, real quick on Axel, I wanted to say something. And this ain't a plug for the Rhythm Collision, but it kind of is. If you guys haven't been, you got to go, because it's kind of a reunion. It's like you're running into people. Of course, there's a lot of people you don't know, but every year I go to that thing, I run into people and see people I haven't seen in a long time. And as you guys know, I always have a great party up in my room, and we've had some really good times with some people from the past. And Axel, you do a great job at that. And I just had to say one more thing. When you mentioned Gator, it just brought back memories of that old green Cadillac, Robert.
Oh boy. Yeah.
What do you say,
about my
Tom?
Chevy? But the times we had in that caddy, man. Yeah,
boy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no,
We go
Axel,
to jail for that stuff.
Axel, he was
and his father was like a hardcore, a Southern preacher.
Did you ever meet
guy.
him?
I did indeed.
Yeah.
He was definitely.
He thought his son was like the spawn of Satan, although it was actually his son. But to him, this music was like anathema. Was like, but you know what? He was the best guitar player. That guy could pick like Chet Atkins style, like nobody's business.
Yeah. But his dad straight out told me one day when I was at their house that the devil was coming out of the ground and grabbing us by the neck with this rock and roll music and was going to tear us down. And all I could think about was that Rhino Records compilation when they were like, "It's the beat, it's the beat." You remember that?
Yes.
That was
his
he
dad
was crazy.
No, I remember his dad cornered me like, "Do you listen to this Satan music?" And his eyes were like, it was like I got really scared. Like he really was like one of those 50s preachers you see in those old clips.
When we put that in the movie, we got to figure out someone to play that dad.
It's the beat.
Yeah. Hey, Axel, we're about ready to move on, Axel. But you got a plug on what you were talking about, and also to let you know, you can't really hear very well, but Dan was talking about the Rhythm Collision, and if you want to see a lot of the live bands get a taste of what it was like, Rhythm Collision is a place to do it. That's what Dan was saying.
Well, I'm glad he brought that up, because although it's called the Rhythm Collision because I collide all kinds of nostalgic genres of music. But because of this passion we're talking about and, the love for 80s and stuff, every year I try to book at least one 80s rockabilly band at Rhythm Collision every year. So, because of COVID, we had to cancel this year. But so far we're shooting. We got a tentative date the first weekend of January. I think it's January 7th, 8th, and 9th next year. And you can book your rooms, and we're going to start booking bands soon. And looking forward to it, man.
Right on. All right, guys. Hey, man, we're about ready to get out of here. Do anyone have any last words before the alcohol takes full effect on some of these people here?
I got a quick question.
Yeah, who's that?
What was that?
I got a question for Jim. He might have talked about this. I couldn't hear. But how did the Teds come to be? And at the largest point, how many members did he have?
Well, like I said, we had multiple influences. As corny as it sounds, The Wanderers, that movie, The Wanderers, and then of course the English rockabilly scene with the Teds, the Teddy Boys, and we shortened it to the Teds, and so it kind of grew out of in the summer. It was 4 or 5 guys. We got together, started doing this thing. It wasn't anything that we thought was going to go anywhere. And then it just started getting bigger and bigger. And I think before we got completely out of control, I think we were up to about 46 members. Yeah, so 46 or 45.
Is it about? They got it to about like 45, 46 guys by the end of this whole thing. You know, and I did want to say one thing. It's kind of weird because Jim, you were a firefighter, and
Yes.
professional, and Scott in the middle, he's a cop.
I wanted to bring that up. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So you know, you guys.
That's all.
You guys started out as kind of rough characters, but ended up, serving the community, and it just shows.
Like at the end of American Graffiti, end of credits, and they showed what happened, what ended up happening to these people. Good for you guys, man, and thank you for both of you guys for your service. I know, other, the rest of us are doing wonderful things. Tom and Paul and I continue on with music. Dan, I'll tell you what, I'm so impressed with some of the things that you do with your hands. You've created some beautiful things. You work wonders with meat. I'm so jealous of your barbecues.
This guy's like a master of all trades.
So you're saying you like my meat?
No, I'm not.
That's what I heard.
But I'm saying, and I'm sure the rest of us could go around about each one of, about all of us here. But through all these crazy times in our teenage or in around that period, through those years, we all became pretty respectable members of society. So God bless you all.
Yeah, and
COVID kind of ruined my stripping career, but I'm still trying.
We could do it online. Hey, but I did want to say, West Coast Ramble, the guy up in the top, Eddie Hill, we're trying to get the Rockin' Rebels in the studio here for a live concert coming up. When the time is right, the studio is ready, Eddie. Just to let you know.
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No, we love to do it.
I do one last thing to say, Tom.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. Let Eddie talk, and then I'll get to you.
I was just gonna say, so Tom, I sent you that picture of a letter that Rebel had sent me, and he was, he wrote, and he actually had a handwritten Wildcat, I think, logo on there, right? If I have it right, I'm not sure. I think that so, and then I was looking for one pic. There it is. Yeah, I like that the Wildcat logo at the bottom. He was looking to get some records from me. Anyway, I think I set him up with that, but. For Jim, I was trying to find, and I don't know if Jim was in that photo or if he remembers it, but it was the end of the night at Radio City, and I'm packing up, and I get pulled aside, and there's like 25 Teds, and they got the jacket's kind of laying over their knees, and they go, "Want to take a picture with you, Eddie?" And so somewhere, and I can't find it, there's a picture of it. It says Eddie Hill with all the Teds and their girls, and it's this big lineup of people in front of, I think, Radio City. So I don't know if Jim, if you remember that or not. But
yeah,
somewhere
I do. I remember it. Although I don't have the picture, man. I wish I knew.
I think it was in like more.
In those days, we had to get film developed. So.
Right. I think it was in More Mayonnaise magazine or one of those local rags or something. But anyway, I was trying to find that because I thought it would have been cool to show. So just good times and good to see you. It's good to see everybody. Good to be seen.
Yeah.
And Axel, you
really
had
good to connect with you guys, man.
Axel, you had something to say?
Yeah, it's a semi joking, but why do I feel like the nations have been united?
and speaking,
I love it.
To that, I see people who have the same sort of thing going on in their part of the world. Specifically, I see, so Gig from down in San Diego, they have their own scene going on. People across the country, and of course around the world, have the similar things going on. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, guys. So. Hey, man, if that's all we got to say, maybe we might have to do a part 2 of this and find out what happened from 86 to 89. And we'll end on Paul's birth.
One more cheap plug here. Make sure you send some money to Tom so he can keep this thing up.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Yeah, we do good things with the money. We help keep the studio going. And,
speaking of which, Venmo at West Coast Ramble and PayPal. Yeah, just give it to Paul. As a matter of fact, whenever you decide it's over, it's over. But I think Paul should have the final word before we go. Doesn't have to be now.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We're going to go, and I'll stand by. Paul's going to have the final word. Let me set this up. This is harder than it looks, Paul. I'm trying to do this live here.
That's what she said.
There's Paul. All right, Paul, take us out, sir.
Next week, it's going to be only jokes next week on the next episode.
Yes!
That's a joke there. But
Joke
make
only.
sure you tip us on Venmo, tip us on PayPal. We're going to spread all the wealth we can. And please reshare this show. We can restream it as many times as you like. You can watch it 100 times. I'm sure the numbers will grow a bunch more. So thanks for tuning in to West Coast Ramble 74.
And we'll meet you in the parking lot.
Well, you gotta love me blue, I'm here to cat.